Hello everyone, today is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. My name is Evan. Welcome back to another midweek market recap video. So we're going to kick things off with our market technicals dashboard. We can see stocks across the board today up firmly positive, firmly green here. Dow Jones up 1%. All the other majors up pretty close to that, but trailing just a little bit. 5-day change numbers also firmly green here for all of the major indices. Dow out in front leading. IWM, little bit of a lag here over the past 5 days, but still up 2%. Pretty strong, all things considered. Now, if we look at major indices relative to some of the key simple moving averages, we're above the 10, the 50, and we are above the 200 SMA across the board here. I get a little bit of a data glitch on the Dow and Russell because I believe we are above all of those. So I think I missed a little bit of an update before pushing this live. So I think we, right across the board, all check marks there for the major indices. Now, if we scroll down to sector performance, we got utilities out in front leading, followed by real estate and materials. So that is a very different mix here. So I think that's worth noting, or at least be aware of. Utilities, real estate, and materials out in front on at least the past 5 days. Got a firm lead on the market. On the downside, communication services, energy technology, taking a breather, underperforming, still very positive, again up 2% over the past 5 days, but on a relative basis at the bottom of the pack. Now, in terms of major markets, we have emerging markets, which again is a different look here. We haven't seen emerging markets leading on the top 5 here in a very long time. So EEM up there 6%, followed by oil and silver. Curious bunch there. And on the downside, natural gas, volatility, and TLT. So let's jump into the charts here. Let's take a look at what's going on. We are looking at weekly charts of the major indices here, and we have our trend filters applied to sort of smooth out the noise. The white dotted line, white dashed line, I should say, is price itself. The dots colored there are our own trend filter, which we recently published to the website, available for download if you are interested. So if we look at the top left here, you can see the S&P 500 went bullish trend last week. So notice that green dot. It is moving slightly, so it moved up a little bit last week. Notice here, it's not really moving a whole lot higher. In other words, it's not ripping to the upside. It doesn't signal a strong trend here. In fact, it actually looks like the trend filter dot here actually went sideways to slightly lower almost on today's action. Of course, this is a weekly chart, so we only have 2 days worth of data. This week is not complete, but this goes to show you kind of the adaptive nature of this indicator, but it also goes to show us that the trend is not super strong here in the S&P 500. So it should be worth noted. We are grinding higher, but it's certainly not, it's not with very strong conviction or high momentum is sort of another way to look at it. If we look at the top right here, you can see the NASDAQ 100 has been bullish trend now for about 5-6 weeks. Notice it too kind of tapering off a little bit here. Part of this is because, of course, the weekly volume isn't yet completed, but it is notably kind of slowing just a little bit. Bottom left, Russell 2000 bullish trend last week, along with the S&P 500 holding up, and price is still well above this very flat looking trend filter. And for the first time, we have ACWX. So this is our international read on equity markets. So this is basically world equity markets minus the United States. And you can see that it went green positive territory here this week. Again, the week is not finished, so we need to get through Friday for a full sort of confirmation here, if you will. But if you like those early entries, if you like kind of the early look here, ACWX turning up this week is certainly something we haven't seen in quite some time. Frankly, we haven't seen bullish trend here in international markets since last week of January of 2020. So about almost 4 full months since this has happened. So let's take a look here at some of the individual price actions. Let's put a little bit of some levels to these to this recent development here. So for the S&P 500 weekly chart, kind of carving it out like this. If we go to a daily chart, 3130, this would be the next relevant level to pay attention to. This is again where the market topped out, had that little reactionary bounce at the end of February. It is very, when we look here at just the action from a price perspective here, putting on my trader hat, it does make me a little bit nervous seeing the way ranges have sort of compressed here. The market's kind of grinding higher. Volume's been more or less kind of dropping off a little bit. So again, the spider sense here tells me gotta be a little bit cautious after such a good run, and basically a V-shaped 30% off of the lows, or let's see what the exact number is, 40% off of the very lows here for the S&P 500. So the way this is kind of very slowly kind of grinding up here does make me a little cautious. Again, we have to keep this in lens with our trend filter, and this is why having an objective, data-driven approach to, filtering markets, if you will, and if it's just by a simple trend filter like this, then we know that the trend is up. So it is tough to want to fight it because the uptrend is in place. So for me personally, when I look at it, this is all sort of how I'm approaching it and feeling as a trader that this might be kind of a fade or looks like potential reactionary move lower is in the horizon, but I'm not necessarily betting on that myself at all. I'm going to stick to my system, the rules, and the discipline of the trend, and kind of just step aside here and let this play itself out. But it is, kind of just that interesting development there on how this is unfolding here over the past 4 or so days. Tells me that I just want to be careful of a little bit of a trapdoor rug pull, even just a 2-3 day shakeout down to 29.40. I think that's extremely reasonable and should be expected. Or should not be a surprise if that happens, is I think the way I would want to frame it in over the near term. But if we think about big levels, 29.40, that's to the downside. 31.30, that is to the upside. Trend is higher here in the S&P 500. Now, if we go to the Russell 2000, we have kind of a similar situation here. I mean, certainly the chart's a little bit different. This is off of its highs a lot more relative to the S&P 500. So the IWM is still in, I guess you would call it correction mode, or still 15%. Let's see, what is it? About 14-15% off of highs, but still it has been, certainly a strong performer recently. Again, kind of grinding higher here, volume, slowing a little bit over this past couple of weeks, but still, trend is up here, and it is working itself back up towards last week's highs, 144.14 to 148 general areas and levels I'd be watching above us. 133.50 is below us. That is the line in the sand that I would be watching there. If we started to break below that, particularly on volume with expansion in range, that would be concerning. But until and if that happens, 133.50 is the mark I'd be paying attention to on the downside. Last but not least is the NASDAQ 100. NASDAQ 100 is nearly back to its all-time highs. Seems like it is close enough now where it just needs to get there and test it. All the headlines will come out when the NASDAQ 100 starts making new all-time highs. So really close to it. In fact, this is unadjusted chart, so I actually don't know if we include dividends here, if we are already back at all-time highs. It's quite possible. Something to think about. But anyway, with unadjusted charts for dividends, we're nearly back to that price level set back in February of this year. Again, uptrend is in place, and we're sort of grinding up there. So, and if we had to stick a level on it, of course, we'd be paying attention to the all-time highs. 237 approximately is what 2 points above us. So could easily be there tomorrow, in fact, to test those highs. So those are some of the price action levels I'd be paying attention to. If we go further down the list here and take a look at some other markets, investment grade credit, junk bonds, both trying to march higher here in kind of transition mode on junk. investment grade credit is now bullish trend for the second week. We can see VIX here also in bearish trend now for the second week in a row. And TLT coming back down. Looks like it's about to start testing its trend here in potentially the next couple of days, especially if we see a little bit more of a sell-off. If we look here at the daily chart of all these, you can see TLT has actually been in bearish trend on the daily chart now since the 5th of May. So it's been kind of grinding lower here. And you can see if we look at that weekly chart, it's about to hit that bigger trend level now. So it'll be interesting to see the test. We can see volatility in the short term kind of perking a little bit here, but still mostly all just bearish and sideways for volatility for the past 2 months. If we look at commodities next and we take a look at gold, silver, and oil, gold here still holding up, nice bullish trend on the weekly. Silver also, we talked about that big surge it had yesterday, last week rather, heavy volume coming in, that's bullish trend. Oil is getting back up there, it has fallen, it fell, basically looked like it was going to just fall off the chart to the downside. I mean, it did, but looked like it was just going to leave the charting platform altogether. It is reclaiming itself here. It's getting back towards its trend filter. Still bearish trend. Same thing with DBC over there. If we go to a daily chart on some of these, you can see gold is where it starts to get a little interesting, because now you can see all the choppiness in here over the past 2 weeks in gold, really 3 weeks. And it is still back to kind of neutral here. So longer term, bullish, shorter term, lots of indecision, easy to get chopped up. Silver, nice bullish trend there as well. If we look at oil here, we've been in bullish trend on the daily chart now for the past 8 days. So that covers all of the main assets I wanted to talk about. The last thing I will mention here is if we go back to our individual price series. Let's see if we can make that happen. Alrighty. There it is. All right. If we go to our individual price series, we take a look at VIX. I just wanted to touch upon this one last time here. We did look at how the trends are stacking up for VIX. But again, if we look at the short term and we just look at this from a price perspective here, for the past 9 trading sessions, 10 trading sessions, actually 11 trading sessions, because really we should be looking for... goes to about right there. We've basically been trapped in this tight box here, and markets have, of course, as we mentioned, relentlessly kind of grinded higher and continued to trend to the upside. But notice VIX is really kind of moving sideways here and stubbornly holding on to the upper 20s. So again, a little bit of perhaps warning sign here, if you will. Again, I will let you all kind of decipher this message of the market here, but VIX still just stubbornly holding into the upper 20s. So we're waiting for kind of a breakdown here. So far, haven't quite seen it. Let's pay attention to the end of this week here. It's gotten incredibly tight. VIX usually doesn't stay too tight for so long. It eventually wants to start to expand in volatility in one direction or the other. So either just a total meltdown here of VIX, or a reversion and pop to the upside. I'll let you guys place your bets on which way you think that breaks. So that is it. Those are the main talking points I think I had for today. Let me check my notes really quick. Trends up, volume winding down a little bit, ranges slowing, VIX not budging, but stocks remain in an uptrend. I think that's everything. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in every Tuesday. We do midweek videos just like this. We didn't do last week because of the Monday holiday, but generally speaking, every Tuesday we're doing videos like this. You can subscribe on our YouTube channel or follow us at The Trade Risk. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for some trade ideas.